1. Let me tell you about this sweet 1977 Ford F-100 Ranger I just came across on Craigslist, and I've got to say, this one's actually pretty interesting. For $5,000, you're looking at what appears to be a really well-preserved piece of American truck history. What's really catching my eye here is that it's rocking its original paint and has managed to stay rust-free, which is pretty rare for a 45-year-old truck. The heart of this beauty is the legendary 300 cubic inch inline-six engine, paired with that classic 3-on-the-tree manual transmission, and it's only clocked 90,000 original miles. What makes this F-100 even more appealing is that it's not just a showpiece, it's actually a daily driver with a current registration. All the creature comforts are working, including the AC and heat, which is honestly impressive for a truck of this age, and it's got that cool sliding rear window that these old Fords were known for. They've just put new tires on it, and it's passed California smog with flying colors, including a fresh catalytic converter. Located in Grass Valley, California, with a clean title in hand, this seems like a pretty solid deal in today's market. Just keep in mind that if you're planning to transport it out of state, shipping costs have gone up significantly lately. The seller's right about that. For $5,000, considering the current classic truck market and the apparent condition of this F-100, this could be a pretty sweet deal for someone looking for a classic Ford truck that they can actually use. These inline-six engines are known for their reliability, and finding one this well-maintained isn't an everyday occurrence. 2. Let me tell you about this interesting 1983 Chevy K5 Blazer I found, and I'll keep it real with you about what you're getting into here. For $7,000, you're looking at what's honestly a project vehicle with some serious potential. The seller's upfront about it being in fair condition and there's work to be done. But here's the good news. They've already tackled some of the expensive mechanical stuff. You're getting a brand new crate 350 small block engine, a fully rebuilt transmission, and a fresh exhaust system. That's a solid foundation to work with. The upgrades are pretty sweet. It's sitting on a Rancho 4-inch suspension lift with brand new 35-inch Hercules tires, which is a nice setup for an old-school K5. The undercarriage being rust-free is a huge plus, and they've already handled the interior seats with new vinyl upholstery. Now let's be honest about the challenges. This Blazer needs body work, paint, and a new dash. These aren't small jobs, and you'll need to factor these costs into your budget. The 3,000 miles showing on the odometer likely indicates a rollover, or is just the mileage since the rebuild. For someone who's looking for a K5 Blazer project and isn't afraid of some cosmetic work, this could be a decent starting point since the expensive mechanical work is already done. Just go into it, knowing you'll need to invest more time and money to get it looking right. These K5s are becoming increasingly popular, and with the right work, this could be a really cool rig. 3. Let me break down this 1983 Chevy C20 Silverado that's caught my attention, and I'll give you the straight scoop on what you're looking at here. Listed at $12,500, this C20 is sitting in an interesting spot between project and show truck. The sellers put some serious money where it counts. There's a Blueprint 383 stroker under the hood with only 2,000 miles on it, which is a serious power plant upgrade. They've also gone through the suspension and steering, replacing all the wear items, and wrapped it in what they're describing as a high-dollar metallic blue paint job. But let's be real here. This truck isn't ready to hit the car shows just yet. The interior situation needs to be addressed head-on. It's currently gutted from the paintwork. While the seller has the new door panels, carpet, and trim pieces ready to go, you're looking at a project that needs complete interior assembly. The seat needs reupholstering, the gauges aren't working and need fixing, and there's no AC if that's something you want. The good news is that the expensive, hard-to-DIY stuff like the engine build and paint are done. The bad news? You're still going to need to invest time and money to get this truck where it needs to be. The odometer's broken, so actual mileage on the chassis is unknown. For someone who's handy with interior work and electrical systems, this could be a solid buy. These square-body Chevys are hot right now, and having that Blueprint 383 is a major plus. Just go into it knowing you've got some work ahead of you to make this Silverado the complete package it deserves to be. 4. I've got to tell you about this absolutely stunning 1973 Ford F100 I just found on Craigslist. And wow, this one's really something special. At $21,500, we're looking at what appears to be an exceptionally well-restored piece of Ford truck history. This is a one-owner truck, which is incredibly rare for a 50-year-old vehicle, with its original rebuilt 360 V8 engine, paired with that classic 3-speed column-shift manual transmission. The odometer shows 36,580 miles, and while that's likely rolled over, the condition suggests this truck's been seriously pampered. What really stands out here is the attention to detail in the restoration. We're talking about a professional paint job in orange that the seller claims looks even better in person than in photos. The interior's been completely redone with new leather, and they've upgraded the braking system with a disc-shock drum setup along with power steering for better drivability. They've just installed new wheels and tires, and here's a nice bonus. They're including the factory powder-coated steel wheels with like-new tires as well. The seller's gone through the mechanicals too. Fresh fluids, recent tune-up, new brakes all around, and they're throwing in a bunch of new spare parts with the sale. What makes this F100 particularly appealing is that it's got a straight original body, no rust repair or accident damage to worry about. For $21,500, while it's not cheap, you're getting what sounds like a show-quality classic F100 that's ready to drive and enjoy right now. In today's market, finding a professionally restored one-owner classic truck in this condition is pretty rare, and the price actually seems fair considering the level of work that's gone into it. If you're in the market for a premium classic Ford truck, this one deserves a serious look. 5. Let me tell you about this interesting 1968 Chevy C10 I've found, and I'll keep it real about what you're getting here. For $15,000, you're looking at what appears to be a solid driver-quality C10 with the desirable 8-foot fleet-side bed. The seller's refreshingly honest about this truck. It's not a Barrett Jackson showpiece, but rather a cool classic that's meant to be driven and enjoyed. Let's break down what you're getting here. Under the hood, there's a 1973-era 350 V8 with a Holley carb, and all the external engine components are new. It's running a manual transmission with an Indy 3-speed floor shifter, which is a fun setup for a classic truck. The mechanical work is pretty extensive. New rear suspension with tubular trailing arms, fresh brakes and hardware all around, new tires, U-joints, and carrier bearing. Plus, it's got power steering, which makes this old truck much more manageable. Now, let's talk about the honest bits. There are some dings and a dent in the driver's side bed, and the roof needs a repaint. The floor braces could use some attention, though the seller includes the replacement parts. On the plus side, all the essential systems work, including wipers, horn, lights, and it's even got a modern touch with a Bluetooth stereo. An interesting bonus is that the seller includes the lowering springs if you want to give it that classic dropped stance. At 134,000 miles, this C10 has some life experience, but these trucks were built to last. 6. Let me tell you about this 1978 Chevy Blazer that's popped up for sale, though I've got to say the seller's being pretty minimal with the details here. Listed at $7,500, we're looking at what's described as a rust-free K5 Blazer with a V8 engine and automatic transmission. The odometer's showing 100,000 miles, but let's be real, it's broken and is rolled over, so the true mileage is anyone's guess at this point. Now, I've got to be straight with you. This listing is incredibly bare bones. While no rust is definitely a big plus for a 45-year-old Blazer, if true, there's a lot we don't know here. We don't know about the mechanical condition, interior state, whether it's 4WD or 2WD, or any recent maintenance history. At $7,500, you're in the ballpark for a decent K5 Blazer from this era. But with such limited information, you definitely want to do a thorough in-person inspection before making any decisions. These old Blazers are gaining popularity in the classic SUV market, but without more details about its condition, it's hard to say if this is a good deal or not. If you're interested in this one, you'll want to ask a lot of questions and see it in person. These are great vehicles when they're well maintained, but they can also be money pits if they've been neglected. 7. Let me tell you about this 1982 GMC Sierra that's caught my attention, and I'll give you the straight scoop on what we're looking at here. Listed at $6,500 OBO, this long wheelbase Sierra comes with the classic 350 V8 engine, and while the seller lists it in fair condition, they've actually done quite a bit of recent mechanical work. Let's break this down. The big plus here is all the fresh mechanical work. You're getting a transmission that's been rebuilt with less than 200 miles on it, which is a major expense already taken care of. They've gone through and replaced a bunch of crucial components: new front suspension, all 4 shocks, alternator, starter, battery, power steering pump and hose. The ignition system's been completely refreshed with new plugs, wires, distributor cap and ignition module. Plus, it's sitting on new tires and wheels. What's particularly interesting is that all the power accessories are working: power windows and door locks, which can be rare to find functioning in these older trucks. The odometer shows 113,794 miles, which isn't bad for a 40-year-old truck if it's accurate. For $6,500, considering all the mechanical work that's been done, this could be a solid buy for someone looking for a usable classic truck. The fair condition rating suggests there might be some cosmetic issues to address, but mechanically, it sounds like a lot of the expensive stuff has been handled. These square-body GM trucks are gaining popularity, and with all the new parts, this one could be a good starting point for someone who wants a classic truck they can actually drive while gradually improving it. Tate, let me tell you about this absolutely killer 1964 El Camino SS that's just popped up for sale, and wow, this one's something special. Listed at $30,000, we're looking at a seriously well-built example of Chevy's iconic car-truck hybrid. Under the hood, there's a hot 327 V8 sporting dual 4-barrel carbs, 202 heads, and a mild cam with headers, a setup that should make this El Camino really move. It's paired with the desirable factory Muncie 4-speed manual transmission, and power gets to the ground through a stout 12-bolt Posi-Track rear end. The suspension setup is thoroughly modernized with coilovers, a 4-link setup, front and rear sway bars, and 2-inch drop spindles, all riding on coy wheels, 20x9 rear, 18 front. They've added disc brakes for modern stopping power, and it's got power steering for easy cruising. The dual exhaust with Flowmasters must make this thing sound amazing. The body and trim work appears to be top-notch, with the seller noting magnificent panel gaps and alignment. While the candy apple red paint is 10 years old and shows some fading on the hood, it still shines well overall. The interior's been nicely done with a new headliner and carpet, and it retains its original console and gauges. They've even got vintage AC and heat working. What's particularly appealing is that everything's functional. All lights, signals, and the horn work as they should. With just 7,500 miles showing, likely since the build, this El Camino represents a nice blend of classic style with modern upgrades. 9. Let me tell you about this interesting 1984 GMC Sierra K1500 I've found, and I'll keep it completely real with you about what you're getting here. Listed at $6,000 or $5,995 out the door with tax and registration included, this is a truck that the seller is refreshingly honest about. Originally a 6.2L diesel, it's been converted to a 350 gas engine, and it's a 4x4 with a manual transmission, a pretty desirable drivetrain combo. The odometer shows 99,000 miles, and being a New Mexico truck since new, it's got the huge advantage of being rust-free, which is pretty rare for these old squares. Now let's be straight about the condition. This is not a show truck, and the seller makes no pretenses about it. They're upfront about the cosmetic issues. There are dings, dents, scratches, and general wear you'd expect from a nearly 40-year-old working truck. The driver's seat is ripped, and while it has power windows and locks, you're looking at a vehicle that's definitely showing its age. But here's the good news. It runs and drives, has a clean title, and being a rust-free Southwest truck with a 350 manual 4x4 combo, it's got good bones. For someone who wants a solid square-body GMC to either use as is or gradually restore, this could be a decent starting point. The price seems fair considering the rust-free body and running condition, even with the cosmetic challenges. 10. Let me tell you about this 1985 Chevy Silverado square body that's up for grabs, and I'll be straight up about both its cool features and its issues. Listed at $8,600, we're looking at a short bed 4x4 square body, which is indeed a desirable combination. Under the hood, there's a small block Chevy with some performance upgrades, including a cam, headers, heat-wrapped, and a racing flywheel. The firewall's been heat insulated and the seller says it sounds great. It's got dual fuel tanks, which is always handy, and it's sitting on new tires. The odometer shows 54,780 miles, though as with most vehicles this age, that might not tell the whole story. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room. There are some mechanical issues you need to know about. The starter's making weird noises, and more importantly, the reverse gear is having problems and won't engage properly. These are not minor issues, and you'll need to factor in transmission work if you want to make this truck fully functional. For $8,600, you're buying a project that needs some immediate attention. While the short bed 4x4 configuration and performance upgrades are appealing, the transmission issues mean you're looking at some significant repair costs. This could be a good buy for someone who's mechanically inclined or has a good relationship with a transmission shop, but go into it knowing you'll need to invest more money to get it right. 11. Let me tell you about this seriously sweet 1968 Chevy C10 that's just popped up for sale, and this one's got some really interesting modern upgrades. Listed at $15,000, we're looking at a nicely modernized classic truck that combines vintage style with current performance. The heart of this build is a 5.3L Vortec V8, an LS-based engine, managed by a Phytec LSX ECU and breathing through a Holley mid-rise intake manifold. That's paired with a 4-speed automatic transmission, making this a perfect blend of classic looks with modern reliability and power. The exterior is finished in a striking two-tone satin black and gloss white paint combo, and they've upgraded the lighting with HID headlights. The bed floor is done in red oak, which adds a beautiful custom touch. It's sitting on 20 US Mags wheels, and the chrome bumpers provide that perfect classic contrast. The seller claims it's rust-free, which is huge for these old trucks. They've modernized the driving experience with power steering and power front disc brakes, making this C10 much more comfortable to drive than it was in '68. The interior's been redone with black vinyl and houndstooth inserts, and they've added modern entertainment with a Pioneer CD stereo and subwoofer. The aluminum radiator is another smart upgrade that helps keep that Vortec engine running cool. 12. Let me tell you about this sweet 1964 Chevy El Camino that's up for grabs, and this one's definitely worth a look. Listed at $22,000, we're looking at a nicely customized example of Chevy's iconic car-truck hybrid. Under the hood, you'll find a 327 cubic inch V8 with a carburetor setup paired with a 4-speed manual transmission, a combination that's always fun to drive. The 10-bolt rear end has been rebuilt, which is a nice bonus for reliability. What really makes this El Camino stand out is its custom two-tone brown paint job, which gives it a unique look compared to the more common solid color examples you typically see. They've modernized the driving experience with power steering and power brakes, including front discs, making it much more user-friendly than a stock 64 would be. The seller states that it runs and drives mint, with the clutch, transmission, and engine all in great condition. With 58,789 miles showing on the odometer, it's got some life experience, but they emphasize that it's extremely clean inside, outside, and underneath. For $22,000, you're getting a nicely sorted El Camino that combines classic style with some thoughtful upgrades. The manual transmission and 327 V8 combo is highly desirable, and the custom touches make it stand out without going overboard. 13. Let me tell you about this interesting 1981 Ford F-150 that's caught my attention. Listed at $9,500 firm, we're looking at a flare-side short bed F-150 powered by Ford's legendary 4.9L, 300 cubic inch, inline-six engine, paired with a 4-speed manual transmission with a floor shifter. This combination is known for its reliability and torque, These inline sixes are often called the engine that built America, for good reason. The seller's done some recent maintenance work, including new tires, shocks, and a fairly new battery. They've also updated the audio system with new door speakers and a radio. One cool feature is the versatile tailgate that can be mounted either facing forward or backward on the bed, a neat practical touch. The seller states it's in excellent condition with a good interior, strong clutch, and a solid running motor. Being a flare-side, step-side short bed, it's got that classic truck look that's becoming increasingly popular in the vintage truck market. At $9,500, while it's not cheap for an '81 F-150, these old Fords are gaining value, especially clean examples with the reliable 306 manual transmission combo. If everything's as described, this could be a solid buy for someone looking for a classic Ford truck they can actually use and enjoy. Just remember, the seller's firm on the price and wants calls only, no texts. 14. Let me tell you about this interesting 1977 Plymouth Trail Duster that's popped up for sale, and I'll keep it real about what you're getting here. Listed at $5,500, this is a pretty unique find. You don't see many trail dusters these days, especially ones packing a 440 big block under the hood. This 4x4 is sitting tall with a 6-inch lift, too tall for the current owner actually, and it comes with some nice documentation, including the original paperwork and repair manual, plus receipts for work done. Now let's be honest about what you're getting into here. While it drives good according to the seller, there are some issues to address. Notably, it needs floor pans, which means there's some serious rust repair in your future. The seller mentions having all the glass, which suggests some of it might not be installed currently. For $5,500, you're looking at a project vehicle with some serious potential. That 440 big block is a monster of an engine, and these trail dusters are becoming increasingly rare. However, you'll need to factor in the cost of floor pan replacement and possibly some glass installation work. This could be a really cool rig for someone who's not afraid of some metal work and wants something different from the usual Blazers and Broncos. Just go into it knowing you've got some work ahead of you to get it fully sorted. 15. Let me tell you about this beautifully restored 1974 Ford F-100 that's up for grabs, and this one's got some really interesting features. Listed at $21,000, we're looking at a long bed F-100 that's been finished in eye-catching candy apple red with a comfortable gray cloth interior. Under the hood, you'll find Ford's reliable 302 V8 engine, which provides plenty of power for this classic truck. The odometer shows 84,663 miles, but the seller notes it's no longer functioning, so the actual mileage is unknown. What makes this F-100 particularly interesting is how they've blended classic style with modern conveniences. They've added Bluetooth connectivity for your phone, and there's a serious audio upgrade with 2 kicker 10-inch subwoofers and dual amplifiers in a custom box setup. That's a nice touch that makes this vintage truck much more enjoyable for daily use. The truck appears to be well maintained and clean throughout, though it's being sold as is due to its age, which is standard for classics. The seller's detailed description suggests this isn't just a quick flip, but rather a thoughtfully preserved example of these increasingly popular classic Fords. At $21,000, while it's not cheap for a '74 F-100, you're getting what appears to be a nicely sorted example with some smart modern upgrades. These old Fords are gaining value, especially clean examples, and this one seems ready to drive and enjoy right away. If you're looking for a classic truck that combines vintage charm with some modern amenities, this could be worth checking out. 16. Let me tell you about this interesting 1981 El Camino that's got a pretty cool story behind it. Listed at $11,900, this El Camino has been with the same owner since 1994, when they received it as a graduation present from their parents. That kind of long-term ownership is always nice to see. The odometer shows 126,000 miles, which averages to pretty reasonable use over its life. The seller's refreshingly honest about the condition. There's some paint flaking around the hood and front tire areas, but they emphasize there's no rust, which is a big plus for these cars. The red paint still maintains its shine when cleaned up and hasn't fallen victim to the typical fading you often see on these vehicles. Currently, it's running a Holley carburetor, but the original Quadrajet comes with the sail, which is great for authenticity if the next owner wants to go that route. At $11,900, you're paying for a well-kept, long-term owned El Camino that's been maintained by someone who clearly cares about it. The fact that it's been in the same hands since '94 suggests it's probably been well taken care of, and having both carburetors is a nice bonus. These El Caminos are gaining popularity as classic vehicles, and finding one with such clear history isn't always easy. If you're looking for a classic El Camino that you can drive and enjoy while gradually addressing the minor cosmetic issues, this one could be worth checking out. The combination of long-term ownership, honest description of its condition, and solid maintenance history makes this an interesting option in the classic car truck market. 17. Let me tell you about this 1972 Chevy Cheyenne that's up for sale, and I'll keep it straight with you about what we're looking at here. Listed at $11,500 OBO, this is a classic Cheyenne in the iconic red and white two-tone paint scheme that these trucks were famous for. The odometer shows 145,000 miles, and there are some key points to consider here. On the positive side, it's got a rebuilt transmission, which is a major expense you won't have to worry about, and they've just put new tires on it. The seller says it drives great, which is always good to hear. Now, let's be honest, the seller mentions typical rust, which is something you'll want to inspect carefully. These early 70s Chevys were prone to rust in certain areas, so you'll definitely want to check the usual spots like the cab corners, rocker panels, and bed floors. At $11,500, and they're open to offers, you're in the ballpark for a driver quality 72 Cheyenne, especially one with a rebuilt transmission. These classic Chevys are definitely increasing in value, but you'll want to thoroughly inspect that rust situation to make sure you know what you're getting into. The seller's brief description suggests this is a straightforward, honest sale of a classic truck that runs well, but isn't perfect. 18. We've got a classic 1978 Ford F-250 up for grabs on Craigslist. This beauty is priced at just $4,500 and it's ready to hit the road with its new owner. Now let's dive into the details. The seller has been pretty upfront about the condition of this truck. The motor and transmission have been replaced and redone at some point, which is a big plus. It's always good to know that the heart of the vehicle has been taken care of. The seller also mentions that it runs and drives well, so you can expect a smooth ride. As for the exterior, the seller admits that there is a small rust spot on the passenger floor pan, but it's nothing to worry about. They say it's smaller than their pinky finger, so it shouldn't be a major concern. Just keep an eye on it and address it if necessary. One of the best features of this F-250 is the 4x4 capability. The seller confirms that it works, so you can take this truck off-road and tackle some tough terrain. However, they do mention that it wasn't as practical as they'd hoped for on their property. It's important to consider your own needs and intended use before making a purchase. Under the hood, you'll find a 400 engine paired with a C6 transmission. This combination should provide plenty of power and reliability for your adventures. 19. We're taking a closer look at a 1981 GMC C10 that's up for sale on Craigslist. This classic pickup is priced at $7,500, and it's got some interesting features that might catch your eye. First off, let's talk about the condition. The seller describes it as good, which is always a positive sign. However, it's important to keep in mind that good can mean different things to different people. It's always a good idea to inspect the vehicle in person and ask for more details about any potential issues. Under the hood, you'll find a small block Chevy 350 engine paired with a Holley 750 CFM carburetor. The seller has made some upgrades, including new plugs, wires, and a JEGS distributor. They also mention that the engine has a small cam, which could give it a little extra power and a nice rumble. The transmission is a Saginaw 4-speed manual, which is a classic choice for a truck like this. It should provide a fun and engaging driving experience. One thing to note is that the odometer has rolled over, so the actual mileage is unknown. The listing shows 12,434 miles, but that's likely not the true mileage. Keep this in mind when considering the overall condition and value of the truck. As for the exterior, the C10 has a gray paint job and a stepside bed, which gives it a unique and stylish look. The seller mentions that it needs new tires, and currently has 14-inch wide tires on steel rims in the rear and stock rubber up front. The exhaust system has been upgraded with a MagnaFlow setup, which should give it a nice sound. 20. We've got a 1969 Chevrolet C10 pickup truck that's looking for a new home. This classic Chevy is currently up for sale on Craigslist with an asking price of $4,200. Now, let's dive into the details. The seller is pretty upfront about the condition of this truck, describing it as fair. They bought it with the intention of doing a full restoration, but unfortunately, they don't have the time to take on the project. So, if you're looking for a truck that's ready to hit the road, this might not be the one for you. Under the hood, you'll find a small block 350 engine, which is a classic choice for a truck like this. However, the seller mentions that it needs work, so be prepared to put in some elbow grease to get it running smoothly. The C10 has an automatic transmission, which should make it easier to drive once it's up and running. It's a long box, 2WD model, so it's not the best choice for off-roading or heavy-duty work. One of the major issues with this truck is the rust. The seller admits that the rocker panels have rust, which is a common problem with older vehicles. They also mention that there are leaks around the manifold gaskets, which could indicate some engine problems. Due to these issues, the seller recommends trailering the truck home rather than driving it. As for the exterior, the truck has an orange paint job, which could be a cool starting point for a custom restoration. However, given the rust and other issues, it's likely that the paint will need to be redone as part of the restoration process.